Drop the gun! Show me your hands!
Welcome to the weekly Homicide Report, the weekly program where we talk about all the people that needlessly died at the hands of another person. Now let's take a look at this week's graph. Chicago is right back to where they finished last year, adding 15 homicides this week. Of the ones that the race was listed, 74% of the victims were black. Philly's hopes of giving Chicago competition this year have been dashed. They added 5 murders last week, and 4 weeks in the single-digit homicide numbers aren't going to be enough to keep up with the big dog. Last year at this time, they had 38 and would have been right there with Chicago. Baltimore had 9 homicides, which isn't uncommon there to have that many in a week, but it's a little on the high side. 87% of the victims where the race was listed have been black. The St. Louis area had 10 homicides and would likely be right up there with Chicago if not for their website being updated through just January 17th. So they're a week behind, but they still have a lot of homicides. New York had 7 homicides, and 38% of all homicides this year in New York have been stabbings. That's very high. I'm adding in Houston, Texas this week just to keep the race looking tight. They're at 21 for the year. The website I'm using was off from others last year, so that number may be 1 or 2 higher, as some sources don't count justifiable homicides and others do. And DC had 2 homicides and currently has 2 more than they did at this time last year. There were 8 mass shootings. I covered a few of them. The worst one was the Monterey Park, California one with 21 victims and 10 deaths. California had 4 mass shootings in an 8-day span. And if you just go by the number of deaths, California has had 3 of the top 4 worst this year. 4 kids under the age of 11 and 23 between 12 and 17 were shot and killed. Those numbers are both about normal. I'm also going to start tracking the school shootings more closely. There have been 12, with 10 of them having an injury and 1 with 2 deaths. There were 20 defensive use of a firearm incidents reported. I covered one of them. 18% have occurred in Florida. And Florida currently has twice as many defensive use incidents reported as Texas. Well, that's all I have for you today, but I'll be back next week with the week 5 numbers. Until then, have a great week, and I'll catch you next week.